talking about mental health, like what is it? What do you mean by mental health? And what do you think are some of the issues that we are facing, most of the international students, which leads them to have those issues? Do you have any ideas about that?
So that's a really good question, right,
Mm-hmm.
Vikesh? So in terms of mental health is a really broad topic. I know
Mm-hmm.
it's like physical health, right? It's just
Exactly.
uh, I think something that we don't really talk about a lot. I think for a lot of people, mental health is probably a really deep word where people think, okay, mental
Exactly.
health
That's
means
what I want to open
being
up. Like,
someone.
what do you mean by mental health? You know?
Yeah, it's just the health of your well-being, of
Mm-hmm.
your how you feel inside of your mind, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much, right? And it's like physical health, right? We talk about physical health a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
for some reason there's a lot of stigma about mental health. But from what I understand, mental health is just about your health in terms of your mind, right? If you're feeling good,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not feeling good. I guess the only challenge with mental health is it's hard to see someone struggling, because
Mm-hmm.
if someone has a broken leg, their physical health is bad, right?
Exactly.
But how do you know who someone's struggling mentally, right? So that's probably
Yeah.
a big challenge. uh, but yeah, I think mental health is this the state of your mind and how you
Right.
feel inside of your head, pretty much.
And what do
And
you mean by mental health issues now?
mental health issues would be anything that's affecting the state of your mental health, right? So anything
Mm-hmm.
that's probably bothering your spirituality, your mind, anything that makes you not feel good,
Mm-hmm.
anything that makes you anxious, gives you stress, and for some people, when it gets really bad, anything that might get you depressed, it could
Mm-hmm.
be a wide range of those things, right? So it could be a lot of things for different people. What might be a mental health issue for me, what
Mm-hmm.
might be bothering me might not bother someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where physical health and mental health gets really separated, because physical health issues, they're probably really similar for a lot of people, which is
Mm-hmm.
why it is a lot easier to understand. But mental health issues, I think that the best example is, we think rich people, they should not have issues because they have all the money in the world,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
They have everything we think they want. But often it's rich people who have the most mental health issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people put them under the pressure that they shouldn't be talking about mental health issues because they have everything.
They
So
have bigger
it's
problems.
yeah. So I think mental health issue is really tricky to explain, because
Mm.
it's really subjective.
Yes. It's basically we can say this maybe like it's basically it could be anything, but something that's affecting your mental health, something that's making you feel abnormal or feel bad or feel upset or feel sad for a longer period of time.
Yes, anything that affects your mental health,
Hmm.
I guess that would be a mental health issue.
And when we come to our cohort, what do you think are some of the main issues that might be causing us to have a bad mental health?
I'd say the biggest one I see is probably just homesickness,
Mm-hmm.
being away from your family, being away from the friends that you built through your lifetime, and then having to give up on all of that
Mm-hmm.
and move to a new country. You miss out on all of those things, right? And you know I think right now, because of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
none of us have been able to go back home for an extended time, right? So
Mm-hmm.
right now, for me, I think that's probably been causing the most amount of grief amongst our cohort of Nepali,
Mm-hmm.
international and Nepali students. And I think that's probably what stands up most. And thinking about another thing, I think would be just the struggle that we have to go through as an international student to become
Mm-hmm.
a permanent resident. I think that's what causes a lot of stress as well.
Yeah.
uh, because you have to move to a different place, a different state, where you probably don't know a lot of people. You have to
Mm-hmm.
resettle. It's like coming to Australia for the first time, pretty much, right? You're going to a new place for the first time and then building everything from the scratch. And it's still not certain that you'll get your PR sorted out in a
Mm-hmm.
particular amount of time, right? So that's another thing that affects mental health
Mm-hmm.
of a lot of international students. And I think the last one, not the least, right, is
Mm-hmm.
it's probably relationship issues,
Mm-hmm.
which probably people don't talk about a lot, right? Like I hear so many stories about people getting separated, people getting
Mm-hmm.
divorced. And I think that's probably another issue. And I did podcast with Thriving Source.
Mm-hmm.
We had a guest, Bharti Di, and she works as a mental health nurse, right? And she told me that she used to, I mean, she still gets a lot of Nepali people from the Nepali background who
Mm-hmm.
come for sessions because they've had really bad relationships, really
Mm-hmm.
bad breakups, really bad divorces. And she even said, relationships are probably the number one cause of depression in
Mm-hmm.
the Nepali community right now. So
Okay.
probably relationships, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
all of
probably
those points, man. I can relate to them in one way or the other. One of the things which causes depression or which makes you feel like you're feeling depressed is when you're isolated out here, like you're living on your own and you don't talk much to any person or people, especially with its COVID times too, because I used to go through that a lot when we had like 2 weeks of break, somehow instead of enjoying it, I started feeling like isolated or I started feeling lonely, antisocial, and that causes a lot of, like feelings where it starts to get one after another and you start feeling upset about small things. You start getting irritated or agitated. That happens. And as you say, relationships is a big thing. Like I wouldn't say it's a culture, but I can see a lot of people who get married just to come here, you know there are lots of even other cases whose relationship changes completely after coming here. And I guess for those people, to be blunt and honest, like they were never meant to be together. It was, I think for me, myself, marriage is something that should be done with proper understanding when you are matured enough. And when you understand yourself first, I guess, before you start and go out and share it with someone else. But people are getting married after like they clear their high school just to come here. There are lots of cases like that, and I think those kinds of cases are mostly the ones like you just explained about, where they get divorced. The relationship goes bad, and at that age, there's already a lot of pressure out here with study and work. That's just like another thing to add to the reasons that might cause mental health problems.
exactly. I completely agree. I think people do get married just for the visa purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And people have different reasons for that, right? So
Mm.
I don't know what it is, but I think like you said, a lot of people do end up getting bad breakups, bad divorces, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of setup they had before they come here. And other people as well, some people, you see, it works for some people, when they get married at 18. But I think
Mm-hmm.
for most people, I think it's too early to marry because you're still learning a lot about yourself, right?
Exactly.
I feel like I feel like I was a different person when I was 18 to when I am now. I
I
think there's
am
been
too, man.
so much, exactly. There's so much change that I have had in my mind, in my way of seeing the world. It's completely different from how I saw the world when I was 18, right? So I completely agree that there's probably a certain age which wouldn't work. 18 is probably a certain age which wouldn't work for most people in terms of marriage. I think that's in my perspective too soon, just like you said.
Yeah, it's my too, man. Like it's what I think too. Like when you get marriage, I don't know, it's just me again. I'm not against marriage or anything. I'm just saying that maybe you should know yourself better, like 18 years of age, you're just a child. You just got out of teen age, and you just don't even know how the real world works, I guess, especially when you come from a place like ours where we have never worked or never worked and studied together for most of us. So dealing with that, and you don't know yourself, you get married, then you have a lot of that clash where you want to do things but you can't do them because you're already married, you know and I think
Yes.
that's when, because I have seen a few cases like that, like you come here, you get married, you come here and you see different options and opportunities, and you are not matured enough to make a decision that, okay, I'll just stick to this one. And it's hard because you're young and you have all those hormones and testosterone going out there, which is full of energy, and you want to do things. And once you get limited, it's a message with your mind. I think that's just my case. Again, it's not like everyone's
No,
case.
I think 18. I completely agree. I think 18 is probably too soon for most people, right? There might be
Mm,
an odd case where it still works out, but I think for most people, you're still not sure about the things you want in life at
mm,
18, right? 18 is a discovery phase because you're getting out in the world, you're becoming an adult, and you're becoming independent, right?
mm,
So everything that comes with that, dealing with that, and just understanding the way things work, I think that all takes a toll on you, right? So I think
mm,
it's probably best not to rush relationship when you're 18, especially getting married. That's probably a step too far at
mm.
18, in my opinion as well.
Also, I think it's just a wrong reason to get married, just to come here. People
Absolutely.
never, I don't think people never do like proper research regarding what is it like living here. They just see others going out and they just think that it's all, like green grass and blue skies. When you go there, it's going to be a great. I just was having this conversation with my mom this morning, like how even her friends and their children are coming to Australia, not because they have a proper goal or anything. It's just because that's the trend right now out there. Like everyone wants to go abroad.
Yeah, I think it's not the best reason to get married, and
Mm-hmm,
it's most likely not going to end in a successful marriage, right? Because you're only getting married for
mm-hmm.
the visa, right? Well, I do also understand in some instances, people might be struggling financially. They want to
Mm-hmm.
split the cost. That's probably,
That's the
some
reason.
cases where,
I
yeah,
think most of the cases are like that. Only it's for the financial reasons and everything.
yeah, I do get, friends asking me why Nepalese, you guys get married so quick. And I can never explain why, because I don't know what to say. Um, but it is, for some people, I think it's the only option. In that
Mm-hmm.
case, I guess you have to say, okay, yeah, it's fair enough. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have the option to be able to come by yourself, I think that's probably a lot better, because you're not getting married for the wrong reason, like
Mm-hmm.
you just said before as well, right? If you can afford to come on your own, it's probably going to be more freedom for you, because you're your own person, you're doing your own thing, right?
Exactly.
Whereas once you come married, like, yeah, you'd probably be responsible for another person as well,
Exactly.
and you'd have to not only think about yourself, you'd have to also think about that person at the age of 18, which is probably an age where most of us, we are probably only thinking about ourselves, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
about other people.
We don't
So
know shit, man. I think looking back at 18, 19, I didn't know shit, man. Like anything except then for like going to uni or going to college, coming back home, and those friend circle. I don't think you know anything more than that during that age. But yeah, and another thing, as you were talking about visa and visa PR condition, it is a stressor for most of us. Like it's like a thing we have to do, and we're so, because I have been through that where I was so much stressed thinking about PR and what's gonna happen that I used to have anxiety attacks during work. So it is another thing that it is an essential thing. Like we can't just ignore it. because without PR we won't be able to do anything. But I think we need to also realize that that's not everything, and if we don't get that, that's not the end of life or end of everything. There are other things in life to look after, or give your time to, rather than worrying about if you're gonna get the PR or not. What's your take on that?
I agree. I think sometimes these things aren't under your control, right? You might think you've done everything that you were meant to do in order to get your permanent residency, but it might still not work out, right? And
Exactly.
if all you were trying to do was get your PR, you don't even have a PR, and you haven't even done what you like doing, right?
What's
So
the
in
use?
that sense, you're losing everything. But at least if you do something you like, you're like, oh yeah, I didn't get my PR, but I still I still do something I love, and I'm happy because of that.
Exactly, bro.
So it's probably better to do what you like doing, and think about the PR as a byproduct, pretty much, right? If you're good at
Exactly.
something, you'll probably get a PR, unless the job is not the skill is not in the occupation list. That might, but still, I think PR, you get you never know what might happen in
When the rules
the
might change,
next
when the
year,
conditions
right?
might change.
Yeah, you never know. So it's not under your control. So I think it's probably better to think about what you want, and probably try to find out ways that might fit into the PR if you can. But if you can't, then I think it's probably worth just following your passions, right? Following your heart, because I don't think anyone's been sad by following what they actually believed in. But I know people who just changed the PR and not had the results that they wanted, and it's a very toxic situation, right? It gets in your head, and it really drags you down. So it's yeah, I prefer if people think more about what really makes them happy than a PR or something.
If you like this video, hit subscribe. You can listen to the full podcast in YouTube, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.